I still remember that night like it's burned into the back of my eyes. It was a long stretch of highway just outside of Lincoln Springs, Missouri, the kind of road that looks empty but holds 1,000 little dangers. My name's Naomi Carter. Back then, I was 26, still learning how to be a journalist at a small local paper nobody had heard of. I drove an old silver Civic with a coffee stain on the passenger seat and a dash camera I'd installed myself mostly because my dad always said trust is earned honey and cameras don't lie. The sun was sliding down bleeding orange and purple across the sky. I was dead tired, dreaming about getting home, kicking off my scuffed sneakers, pouring a glass of grocery store wine. Then I saw the flashing lights in my rear view mirror, red and blue. My stomach knotted, even though I'd done nothing wrong. I was exactly at the speed limit blinkers still ticking from my last turn. But you know that feeling, you just know something's about to go wrong. I pulled over to the gravel shoulder, rolled my window down. The smell of hot asphalt and cut grass rushed in. That's when he walked up, Officer Randall Briggs. He moved slow like the world owed him time, thick neck straining against the collar jaw like he'd carved it from cinder block, and a tiny smirk curling at the edge of his mouth. The name tag said Briggs, but his eyes said Predator. "Evening, miss," he rumbled, leaning down so far his shadow swallowed me. "License and registration." He didn't ask so much as claim. I kept my face neutral, like all those self-defense classes taught me, no sudden moves, no edge in my voice. "Sure, officer," I said, handing him my papers. His fingers brushed mine rough and hot, like he enjoyed the little power play. He glanced at my ID. "Naomi Carter," he said, slowly, like he was tasting it. "Pretty name, pretty girl. What's a girl like you doing out here all alone?" I felt my jaw tighten. "Just heading home from work," I said. My tone flat, nothing for him to hook onto. He kept staring, my hair, my blouse, my shoulders. He tapped the roof of my car. "You know you got a busted taillight?" I almost laughed because I checked my lights that week. "I'm pretty sure they're working fine," I replied, a hint of steel creeping in despite myself. That's when his grin widened. "Little attitude. I like that." He leaned closer, breath smelling of stale coffee and wintergreen gum. And then out of nowhere it happened. He shoved his head further into my car. Before I could even shift away, his tongue, thick, wet, dragged from my jawline up to my temple. Slow, deliberate, like a dig marking territory. My skin crawled, my stomach flipped. It wasn't sexual. It was ownership. A cop with a badge telling me he could do whatever he wanted, and I couldn't stop him. He chuckled low and guttural. "Friendly warning to fix that light, sweetheart." He tossed my license onto my lap like trash and strutted back to his cruiser. Drove off without another glance, like licking a woman's face on the side of the road was just part of the shift. For a few seconds, I couldn't move. My hands shook on the steering wheel. Tears burned, but I wouldn't let them fall, not there, not with him watching in the rear view. I forced myself to breathe. Then my eyes caught the tiny red dot blinking on my dashboard. My 360-degree camera had been rolling the entire time, every second of it. When I finally got home, I locked the door, slid the chain, and just leaned there shaking. I scrubbed my face with scalding water until my skin turned raw, but it still didn't feel clean. That violation wasn't on my skin. It was under it. But my dad didn't raise me to drown. He raised me to fight. I booted up my laptop, plugged in the hard drive, the files downloaded, my hands steadied. I hit play. There it was. 4 angles, crystal clear audio, his smirk, his lies, the disgusting act itself. Watching it from the outside, the journalist in me took over. This wasn't just evidence. It was a story, and not just mine. For the next 4 hours, I disappeared into research. Public records complaints, anonymous forums. Randall Briggs had 3 official complaints for harassment of women during traffic stops, all dismissed. A cousin on the city council, a poker buddy in internal affairs, the whole rotten system protecting him. He felt untouchable because he was untouchable. Until me. By dawn, my article was done. Not a victim's plea, but an indictment. I laid out the stop, the fabricated taillight story, embedded the video, named the cousin, named the pattern, named every ugly truth I could verify. My heart hammered as I hovered over the mouse. Then I remembered his breath on my cheek, that smug grin. I clicked publish. The internet did what the internet does when it's furious. By lunchtime, my little story was national news. The video of a uniformed cop licking a young woman's face seared itself into public consciousness. Phone lines at the station, jammed hashtags demanded justice, news vans camped outside the precinct. My phone blew up with interview requests from CNN, Fox, MSNBC. I turned them all down. Let the story speak for itself. And then Briggs fought back. He went on a local TV show known for coddling cops. Slick suit practiced sincerity, claiming I'd flirted with him, touched his arm, that his gesture was a clumsy joke. He even implied I'd pulled him closer. It was a textbook smear turn, the victim into the aggressor, muddy the water, save his skin. For a few hours it worked. Social media trolls called me a liar, an attention seeker. The comment section on my article turned into a war zone. That's when my dad stepped in, not with a press conference, not with a headline, but with one private phone call. My dad, Judge Howard Carter, one of the most respected judges in the state, called the police chief. Calm, measured, and terrifying. He'd seen the full unedited footage. He told the chief in that even tone of his that what had been professional misconduct was now perjury and defamation, and that nothing less than decisive action would be acceptable. I wasn't on the call, but I can imagine the sweat on the chief's forehead. All Briggs's connections suddenly meant nothing next to a furious state judge whose daughter had been assaulted and slandered. 2 days later, the department held a disciplinary hearing. They said it was routine, but we all knew it was a reckoning. The room smelled like old carpet and fear. A panel of stone-faced senior officers, a union rep staring at his shoes, and Briggs, a pale, deflated version of himself, shoulders slumped. I sat in the back with my editor. I'd debated coming, didn't want to give Briggs the satisfaction, but my editor whispered, "You need to watch the light you lit burn the whole rotten thing down." They rolled the footage, not the viral clip, the entire 10 minutes. My driving his swagger, the fabricated taillight, my calm replies, and then the final disgusting act. The room went dead silent except for the crisp audio of my own voice in his low chuckle. No shadows left for his lies. The panel chairman finally looked up. "Officer Briggs, do you have anything to say?" Briggs opened his mouth, but nothing came out. He just shook his head, Adam's apple bobbing like he was swallowing glass. Verdict came in under 5 minutes. Gross misconduct, abuse of authority, conduct unbecoming. Immediate termination. Chief signed it on the spot. They made him hand over his badge and gun right there. Without those two objects, he wasn't a predator with a badge anymore. He was just a man disgraced, unemployed, infamous for all the wrong reasons. I walked out into the afternoon sun. It wasn't triumph or joy, more like a quiet release. The knot in my chest finally started to loosen. Weeks later, the ripple effects kept going. The city launched a full review of the department's handling of civilian complaints. 2 other officers got disciplined for bearing reports. My article won the state award for investigative journalism. I wasn't the rookie anymore. I was a reporter who'd proved the pen, or in this case the camera, was mightier than the badge. I stood at the podium, the plaque in my hand, and dedicated it to everyone who'd ever been made to feel small by someone in uniform. I said, "You're not crazy, you're not weak, and your voice matters even if it shakes." The city feels different now, not because the monsters disappeared, but because I know they can be faced. That tiny red light on my dashboard still blinks every time I start my car. It used to remind me of a nightmare. Now it reminds me of a turning point, a victim becoming a fighter, one person refusing to be silenced. So I'll ask you, because this isn't just my story, what would you have done on that road? Have you ever seen power abused and felt helpless? Or have you stood up when it mattered? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Tell your story, because the more we speak, the less they can hide. And maybe, just maybe, we make the world a little bit braver, one truth at a time.